Wow, it feels like every day there's some crazy new political headline.
It really does.
This week, it's all about Trump's cabinet picks and specifically the sudden withdrawal of Matt Gaetz, his initial choice for Attorney General,
Oh, yeah?
amidst all the controversy. I think it's time for a deep dive.
Absolutely.
We've got news excerpts and expert analysis to help us figure out why Gaetz stepped back and what this means for the current political landscape.
Yeah, it's fascinating how quickly things escalated and the sheer volume of reactions.
Right. So Gaetz, he really made a name for himself as this fiery, outspoken figure within the Republican Party, a real Trump loyalist, always ready to take on the establishment. But that approach, while it earned him a devoted following, also made him a pretty divisive character.
Exactly. His aggressive style alienated a lot of folks, even within his own party, the GOP. Remember his attempts to oust Kevin McCarthy from his position as Speaker of the House?
Oh, yeah.
That really showcased his willingness to challenge the status quo.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't afraid to shake things up.
Right.
But that kind of attention-grabbing behavior can also attract a lot of scrutiny.
Right.
And that's where things start to get interesting.
Absolutely. Despite never facing any formal charges, the allegations against Gaetz were serious and impactful.
Definitely.
There was a DOJ investigation into sex trafficking and a separate House Ethics Committee investigation into sexual misconduct and improper gifts. And then his abrupt resignation from Congress just before his nomination.
Right.
It's no surprise this cast a long shadow over his potential confirmation.
Yeah, it's all pretty heavy stuff. Plus, that House Ethics report, it may never see the light of day since he resigned.
Wow.
Which, talk about a breeding ground for speculation.
All right.
What does that mean for transparency and holding those in power accountable?
Right.
Even after they leave office? It raises a lot of questions.
Absolutely. And this situation gets even more complex when you think about the role of the Senate in confirming presidential cabinet nominations.
Yeah.
They have the power to thoroughly vet candidates through hearings, investigations, and ultimately a vote. They can even block a nomination if they feel the candidate isn't suitable.
So with all this pressure mounting, Gaetz ultimately withdraws from consideration, saying he doesn't want to be a distraction. But I'm curious, could that statement have been more for public consumption?
Possibly.
What do you think about the intense pressure he was facing from both Democrats and Republicans in the Senate?
That bipartisan opposition is incredibly significant. It suggests that even some within the GOP had serious concerns about Gaetz as Attorney General.
Right.
It's not every day you see such a united front against a president's nominee, especially one from their own party.
Yeah.
Take Senator Susan Collins, a moderate Republican, who commented that there are a lot of red flags surrounding Gaetz.
Wow.
That's a pretty strong statement coming from someone usually aligned with Trump's picks.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if this signals a potential shift in the Republican Party. Is there a growing concern for ethical standards in government, even among those who generally support Trump?
It's a good question.
It's fascinating to consider.
It certainly makes you think. Now, remember, we also had Peter Hegseth, another controversial pick for defense secretary, facing his own set of sexual assault allegations.
Right.
Neither man was charged with any crime, but the allegations themselves carry weight.
It makes you wonder about the criteria being used for these high-level positions.
Yeah.
Should even the presence of unproven accusations be enough to disqualify someone, especially for roles as sensitive as leading the Justice Department or the military?
It raises the question, should past behavior, even if it didn't lead to legal charges, be a factor in determining a candidate's fitness for office?
Right, because it speaks to judgment and character, which are crucial for these roles.
Absolutely. It's a complex issue.
Yeah.
With no easy answers. But what's interesting is how quickly Trump pivoted after Gaetz withdrew, almost immediately. He appointed Pam Bondi, another staunch loyalist.
So that was a lightning-fast turnaround. Like, wait, who is Pam Bondi, and why does this name sound so familiar?
Well, she served as Florida's Attorney General in the past and played a prominent role in Trump's defense during his impeachment trial. She was always a very active campaigner for him in this recent election.
Right.
So you could say loyalty played a big part in her selection.
Yeah, it's hard not to see the connection. Gaetz steps down and boom, Bondi's in. Makes you wonder if she was always a backup plan.
Possibly.
Just waiting in the wings.
It certainly adds another layer to this whole situation. Now, remember Trump's statement about Bondi refocusing the Department of Justice to fight crime and make America safe again?
Oh, yeah. That was a pretty loaded statement.
Right. It raises concerns about the potential politicization of the DOJ.
It's interesting because, on one hand, Trump has been very vocal about the DOJ being weaponized against him.
Mm-hmm.
But then he appoints someone who is so openly in his corner. It seems a little contradictory.
It does create a perception of potential bias, which is concerning for an institution that's supposed to be impartial and uphold the rule of law. What implications might this have for future investigations and prosecutions?
Exactly. And it all circles back to that original question. Why did Gaetz really withdraw? Was it truly just to avoid being a distraction, or was there more to it? Maybe pressure from within the GOP, or concerns about what might come out if those ethics investigations ever saw the light of day?
It's impossible to know for sure. But this entire saga exposes a power struggle within the Republican Party. You have the hardcore Trump loyalists on one side, and those who are more moderate, and perhaps less comfortable with Trump's controversial moves on the other.
So where does that leave someone like Gaetz, who was so closely aligned with Trump, but also made plenty of enemies along the way?
That's the million-dollar question. I'm not sure anyone has the answer right now.
But what about Bondi? Her background and potential impact on the DOJ seem pretty crucial to this whole discussion.
Absolutely. Before her appointment, Bondi faced criticism for her handling of several high-profile cases as Florida's Attorney General.
Oh, really?
Some argued she was too quick to dismiss cases that could have negatively impacted Trump or his allies.
That's a pretty serious accusation.
It is. And her critics worry that her loyalty to Trump might outweigh her commitment to upholding the law impartially. They're concerned she might use her position to shield Trump and his associates from investigations, or to pursue politically motivated prosecutions against his opponents.
So what are her known policy positions? Does she have a track record that might give us some insight into how she might lead the DOJ?
Bondi is known for her conservative stance on issues like abortion and gun control. She's also been a vocal supporter of law enforcement and has taken a tough stance on crime.
Okay.
However, her critics argue that her record shows a willingness to prioritize political considerations over legal principles.
It sounds like her appointment could have a significant impact on the direction of the Justice Department.
It very well could. And her nomination is likely to face intense scrutiny during the Senate confirmation hearings.
I bet.
Democrats will be looking closely at her past actions and her potential biases.
Especially with that slim majority in the Senate. Every single vote counts. If even a few Republicans join the Democrats in opposing her, it could spell trouble for her nomination.
It's true. This situation is a microcosm of the challenges facing the GOP right now.
Yeah.
They're trying to balance the populist anti-establishment wing with the more traditional moderate factions.
Right. And the question is, how much will loyalty to Trump outweigh concerns about competence and ethics?
That's a question that will continue to play out, not just with Bondi's nomination, but with every decision Trump makes during his presidency.
Yeah.
It really does make you think about the bigger picture here.
So for our listener who's been following this whirlwind of events, what's the key takeaway from all of this?
I think it shows that even in this highly charged political climate, checks and balances still exist. We saw the power of public pressure and bipartisan scrutiny in action with Gaetz's withdrawal.
Yeah, it's like a reminder that accountability still matters. Even in the age of social media and 24/7 news, it can have a real impact.
Exactly, and it highlights the fact that the political landscape is constantly shifting. Alliances change, power dynamics ebb and flow, and there are always surprises around the corner.
Which makes it all the more important to stay informed, engage in thoughtful discussions, and hold our leaders accountable.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. This deep dive has only scratched the surface. There's so much more to analyze as this story continues to unfold.
So what should our listener be watching for as this saga continues?
Well, keep an eye on how Bondi's nomination progresses in the Senate. Will she face tough questions about her past actions and potential biases? Will any Republicans break ranks and vote against her?
And what about the broader implications?
Think about the long-term impact of these appointments on the DOJ. Will it maintain its independence and commitment to the rule of law? Or will it become more politicized? These are crucial questions that deserve our attention.
This whole situation has been a real eye-opener. You know, it reveals those deeper cracks within the Republican Party and the challenges Trump might face in pushing through his agenda if he can't keep his own party united.
That's right. And it underscores the importance of an informed and active citizenry.
So for our listener, here's your call to action. Stay engaged, pay attention to how this story develops, ask tough questions. And don't be afraid to voice your own opinions and participate in the conversation.
Because at the end of the day, the future of our political landscape depends on all of us being informed, engaged, and willing to hold our leaders accountable.
Well said. That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those conversations flowing.